you buy and who should you sell before week 10 of the fantasy football season? What's going on, football fans and fantasy freaks? It's Mitch here, back with another buy low, sell high trade advice video. Before my advice, spike the like button and don't forget to subscribe to OwnersBox Fantasy for weekly buy low, sell high trade advice videos just like this. Another piece of advice I have for you is to sign up to OwnersBox right now, because for first-time users, you get a $500 deposit bonus and a free entry. There's $100K in prizes for week 10 alone, so make sure to check it out. Link in the description, at the pinned comment. And now it's time for some trade advice, some buy low and sell high candidates. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Let's get started with the buy low candidates for week 10. First, we've talked about him before, but he's coming back from a bye week, fresh, ready to rock for a run with the 49ers. Deebo Samuel is fresh, and whenever Deebo Samuel is fresh, he is fire. He is money. Just like on OwnersBox. Sign up. Deebo Samuel is going to be fire, man. He is going to dominate the rest of the season. And in the fantasy playoffs, he has great matchups. The Rams, the Dolphins, the Lions. A couple of these games could be high-scoring games. Shootouts for the 49ers. And without Brandon Ayuk, we've seen unbelievable usage for Deebo Samuel. The thing that I love about him, too, for trading right now is the owner didn't have him last week. You probably should have traded for him during the bye week. You probably should have loaded up on 49ers before this next stretch run, because this is when the Niners dominate, right? Christian McCaffrey, Deebo, Juwan Jennings, Brock Purdy, George Kittle, whoever you wanted, you should have got him. But Deebo's a guy that actually should have had like an insane game against the Cowboys the last time the Niners played, and he didn't. He could have. He got like a 50-yard, 60-yard touchdown called back because of a penalty that really had nothing to do with the play. And he dropped another potential huge gain on fourth down in that game. So he could have went off in that game right before the bye, which would have set his price super high. But because that production did not fall through for his owners, they might be a little bit upset. They might be looking to sell the 49ers stock because people don't believe in them the way that I do. But I'm here to tell you, it's time to buy in on the 49ers. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, and especially Deebo Samuel. Because we've seen no Brandon Ayuk, Deebo goes nuclear. Now Christian McCaffrey is there to help out this offense. More efficiency through the passing game on short passes for McCaffrey. The red zone offense will be better because of McCaffrey. Everything about the offense will be better. The flow, the play calling, Kyle himself, the scheme will be better. Brock Purdy will be better. That makes Deebo better. That makes Kittle better. So buy low on the 49ers, but especially on Deebo Samuel. The next target is a rookie phenom who I honestly don't think you can really get enough of. If you have him in one league, try to get him in two. I'm talking about Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors has a beautiful schedule for the rest of the season, and he's going to help you win fantasy championships. He has juicy matchups versus Carolina, Tampa Bay, Dallas, Baltimore, and I think that could make him a high-end wide receiver one for the rest of the season. This Giants offense, I think, is being slightly slept on. Wan'Dale Robinson's had a good season. Slayton's put up some good numbers, but Malik Neighbors has been their consistent wide receiver one. He's had 11-plus targets in 5 of his 7 games played this year. And honestly, the last couple of weeks have been kind of his floor performances against the Commanders and against the Steelers. This guy still has a lot left in the tank. And especially considering, Tampa, Dallas, Carolina, Baltimore. I mean, these are the easiest matchups you can get. He is going to feast when it matters most. Get Malik Neighbors before it's too late. Our third target to buy low on is the man, the myth, the Drake May. Yes, sir. The young quarterback, the rookie, Drake May. My guy, Drake May. You need to buy on Drake May. Whether it's in Dynasty, buy. as high as you can. It doesn't matter. He's going to be a superstar. I'm trying to tell you. I told you this before he was drafted, okay? At least if you follow the BLV, but probably here too on OwnersBox as well. Drake May is a special kind of quarterback. I think he's going to be good for the long term in real life, but in fantasy, he might be even better. You're talking about the first quarterback in the history of the NFL to have all the following stats in his first 4 career starts. And keep in mind, this is on a dreadful Patriots team, okay? 700 plus passing yards, a 60 plus completion percentage, 6 plus passing touchdowns, 200 plus rushing touchdowns, which is the big one, and he has 1 plus rushing touchdowns, right? So 200 plus rushing yards, 1 plus rushing touchdowns, 700 plus passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns. He's putting up touchdowns, he's putting up yards, he's putting up passing, he's putting up rushing. He's a special player, and we know that for fantasy, quarterbacks that can be a dual threat are so important. Drake May, through 4 career starts, has almost as many yards as RG3, and he missed 3 quarters of one of the games of the 4 starts. So that means he's only played 3 games and a quarter, and he nearly has as many yards as RG3, who has the all-time record. He only has 1 yard less than RG3, the all-time record for first 4 starts. Not Jaden Daniels, not Lamar Jackson, Drake May, okay? So this guy is a stud. And coming up, he actually plays a pretty decent schedule down the stretch. I would say right before that chunk of the playoffs, he has a very nice schedule to take advantage of that I would definitely look at and say, if I need a quarterback to push me towards the playoffs for cheap, Drake May could be that option. And honestly, this guy might have such a high floor because he's always going to be trailing this year. He's on a team that they're very bad defensively. He's always going to have to be throwing the ball. And he also runs the ball. So it feels like his floor is extremely high for the rest of the year. Really, no matter the matchup. He's played the Texans. He's played the Titans. He's played the Jets. He's put up fantasy points against those defenses. If he can do that, he can do it against other easier matchups as well. So Drake May is definitely a buy low for me. Amari Cooper is another buy low. The wide receiver that was traded from the Browns to the Bills to be Josh Allen's number 1 is currently dealing with a wrist injury, but I think this is the perfect time to buy because I think people are buying into Coleman or Shakir or Kincaid or James Cook, and they don't necessarily think that Amari Cooper is going to be an important part of this offense, but trust me, Amari Cooper is the most talented receiver on this team, and once he comes back, he is going to be involved, okay? And I think you want him right before the playoffs of the actual NFL because the Bills are going to be gearing up for the playoffs, trying to get Amari Cooper involved because they understand that Amari Cooper is going to have to be essential to them winning against the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Texans or the Steelers or whoever they're facing in the playoffs because Amari Cooper is that type of guy that can win one-on-ones, and Allen's going to need to build a rapport with him before it's too late. And you look at the season schedule for the rest of the year, I mean, Rams, Lions, Patriots, Jets at the end of the season, gearing up for the playoffs, that's not half bad. Rams, Lions, Patriots, Jets. All of those games, I could see Cooper having a nice little outing. So we saw the instant rapport from Cooper and Allen. I think it will only grow moving forward. James Conner is my final buy low. James Conner is a beast. First of all, he's been one of the most consistent fantasy running backs on the season. And I just love his schedule. So not only is he really consistent, he catches the ball, he runs the ball, he scores touchdowns. He's in an offense that I think has a very unique and underrated running game. And we've seen that even as recent as last week against Chicago. They tore them apart on the ground, and that's why they won in convincing fashion. But Conner plays some really easy run defenses, including the Seahawks twice, the Vikings are the toughest matchup he faces. The Jets this week is kind of a middling team against the run. And then after that, okay, Seahawks twice is bottom 5 in the league. Patriots, awful against the run. Panthers, awful against the run. And Rams, bad against the run. So he has a lot of fantastic matchups. And this is a team in Arizona that I think it's going to be them and the Niners that are fighting over this division. So these games are going to be critical, which means Connor's going to get the ball. He's going to get it a lot. And especially later in the game, he's going to be there to secure those wins. Seattle, they typically struggle with that team as an overall team in a matchup, but that might be from the defensive side. So that could also lead to more shootouts. The Patriots with Drake May might actually push the Cardinals into a shootout. The Panthers just stink. And the Rams also, that could be another shootout with Matthew Stafford. So these could also be pretty high-scoring games. Outside of that Vikings game, I think he's going to go off in each and every one of the games. My sell high players for week number 10, and remember, you're thinking about players that have been very good recently that I think won't help you in the long term or won't help you win a championship. So JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba of the Seattle Seahawks, is one of those players. JSN is coming off a career performance against the Los Angeles Rams, in which he had like 180 yards, multiple touchdowns on explosive passes against a defense that's giving up explosive passes. Have not been a very good defense all year, the Rams, and that was without DK Metcalf on the field. So DK is probably going to come back. Lockett's still going to be involved. That's just the tricky part about the Seahawks. They're going to want to run the ball with Kenneth Walker. They're going to want to get the ball to DK Metcalf, and there's not going to be a lot of games like that against the Rams where it's in overtime, fourth quarter, you need a touchdown for 2 minutes, halftime, you go down the field and you score. Like, just the way the game played out, Seattle was constantly chasing the Rams because Geno threw a couple picks and they were constantly having to throw the ball down the field. So it was just kind of a fluky performance for the profile that JSN is, which is more of a underneath slot intermediate threat. He's not a deep threat. That was kind of a rare performance. So I just don't really see that happening moving forward. I think you'd be kind of solid, but like not amazing. So JSN, I would sell high if you have the opportunity, because some people might look at that and say like, oh, he's finally arrived, right? Because it's his second season. It's usually the breakout campaign of a wide receiver that second season. DK's out. Maybe people are buying that DK will be out longer. Plus, maybe they just think he's the number 2 receiver now and Lockett won't be as involved. So there's a lot of reasons why people would buy on JSN. Tony Pollard is one that I would definitely sell. I have Tony Pollard in a league, and I would definitely move off of him for the right offer. He is a guy that has a lot of carries and a guy that has a lot of work and touches, so it's obviously valuable to have in fantasy. You don't necessarily want to just trade him for no reason, but he punished the Patriots last week. He had 28 carries for 128 yards. The key number here is 28 carries. He probably won't replicate that for the rest of the season. That's just not going to happen, especially considering the Titans won't be leading that many games for the rest of the year. They did happen to lead the Patriots at one point. On top of that, he is dealing with a little bit of a nagging foot injury, which is a concern for a running back. Spears could be coming back at any moment, which is also going to cut into his workload, and he does play a tougher schedule down the stretch. So he plays the Chargers coming up, the Vikings, the Texans. Those 3 teams are pretty good against the run. Then he's got Washington, which is just going to be a tough game overall. Jacksonville twice, who's actually one of their better areas of their team, is stopping the run. The Bengals are an easier matchup. The Colts are a middling matchup. So not like an absolute terrible schedule, but when you consider the Titans are a bad offense in general, Pollard probably won't have many touchdowns. Spears will be coming back. Pollard's been carrying a lot of the load, and he'll probably wear down throughout the course of the season. This is probably his peak performance in terms of rushing production, so I'd probably look to move off of him if I had an opportunity to maybe buy low on a better running back. Like maybe I could put Tony Pollard together with another player and get maybe like a Jonathan Taylor or something like that. So look into something like that. DeAndre Hopkins is my third sell high player. D-Hop had a great game against the Bucs, and it's just a perfect time to get rid of him because he does play a really tough schedule. I don't think D-Hop is necessarily still in his prime or at his peak or anywhere close. He still thinks he's Randy Moss, and he thinks Mahomes is Tom Brady, according to his social media account, and we can allow him to think that and other owners in our fantasy leagues to think that. But I'm looking to move off because Tampa Bay low-key is an awful defense. I don't think a lot of casual NFL fans or even real diehard NFL fans know how bad the Bucs defense is. Like, it's legitimately awful. And they can't stop anything over the middle of the field, which is where D-Hop was just feasting. And he had a couple touchdowns, which I don't think is necessarily going to happen every week, considering the Chiefs' red zone offense has been pretty putrid. They play some good defenses down the stretch, including the Broncos next, the Bills. They've got Carolina Panthers and the Raiders in between their tough matchups. So Denver, Buffalo, 2 really good pass defenses. Keep in mind the Chiefs offense hasn't been that good this year. Then they got Carolina and Vegas, which is great. Then they play Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers at the end of the year, which the playoffs would be Browns, Texans, Steelers. I don't see how D-Hop is really thriving in any of those games. So I would like to move off of him, given his age, given that teams will start to figure out how the Chiefs are using him, given that the Chiefs will probably be locking up like a really good seed and their division like rather shortly. There's not a lot of need for them to like go all out and burn opponents and destroy them, and like they're kind of saving for the playoffs. After this Buffalo game, like maybe Houston will be big for them, but there's not a lot of other games that really matter. Like the Buffalo game's going to really matter, but that's a tough opponent for D-Hop. So I don't love D-Hop for the rest of the year. I think he'll be really highly thought of because of this Monday Night Football performance that everybody watched, and because everybody thinks he's going to be back in his prime with Mahomes. I don't know, man. I'm not buying it. The Bears receivers would be my next sell, but specifically Rome Odunze. Rome had one of his best seasons of his NFL career. I've never been a huge Rome guy. I didn't rank him as high as others in the NFL draft. I liked him. I didn't love him. And there's a lot of reasons to not love the Bears offense. First of all, Caleb Williams just flat out sucks right now. He can't complete passes. His deep ball is awful, and he constantly takes sacks and just runs around in circles, and it's just not good offense. The scheme is really, really vanilla, and they don't really feature any player. It doesn't feel like they're looking to get the ball to DJ Moore, to Keenan Allen, or Rome Odunze at any consistent rate. It's just they're going to play football and line up. There's bad vibes in the locker room surrounding their head coach right now, Matt Eberflus, and there's just no consistency to these wide receiver performances. One week it might be DJ Moore. One week it's Keenan Allen. One week it's Rome Odunze. One week it's Cole Kmet. Every week it feels like they try to get the ball to DeAndre Swift, but that's about it. Like, and because it's Chicago, bad weather, type of football environment to play in, the NFC North in general has good defenses. Rome Odunze is not a separation specialist. He's more of a jump ball guy, so he's not always open. Just a lot of reasons to fade the production that we've already seen from him. He's kind of closer, in my opinion, to like Coleman of the Bills than I think a lot of people want to think. Like, he's not Malik Neighbors, okay? And I think a lot of people still value him that way if they were hearing all the buzz before the draft. And there's a lot of guys that were watching fantasy podcasts and all this stuff all offseason. They still think that Rome is going to just dominate the rest of the year. I just don't see it given the competition, the schedule, and the current infrastructure of the offense and the quarterback play. And my final sell high, it hurts me to say this because I've loved him all year, all offseason. But if I could trade Chase Brown, I probably would look into it simply because, one, Khalil Herbert's coming to town from the Bears. They traded for Khalil Herbert to replace Zach Moss, and Khalil Herbert's better than Zach Moss. So I think Khalil Herbert will work into Chase Brown's workload down the stretch because he's a good football player. Secondly, he has a tough schedule ahead, and I would look to sell him because of this reason mostly. Baltimore on Thursday night, which you're probably watching this after the game, so I don't know how he did, but he's going to get a large workload, but I don't think it's a great matchup. The Chargers, good run defense. Pittsburgh, we know how good they are. Dallas is pretty easy, but then Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver. So he gets one easy game, and then Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver. Baltimore, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh. So none of them are easy defensively. And considering this is the Bengals with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot anyways. Herbert's going to be working in. Chase Brown is kind of a smaller running back. You wonder if he can take the full workload the whole year. I like him. I still think he'll be a RB2 flex play type of guy, but I just don't think he'll dominate. I think there's guys with more upside given schedule, like James Connors of the world, that maybe you could try to trade for. Those are my buy lows, my sell highs for week 10. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to check out OwnersBox Fantasy, guys. Link is in the description.